How do you have a relationship with Hashem? It's not so different than having a real relationship with anybody. You have to really want to make a real connection. You have to really believe that when you're talking to Hashem, that He's with you and He's listening to you, and that He exists. This is an essential thing in any relationship, that you have to be able to make contact, a real contact. So when we start to talk to Hashem, when we go outside at night, hopefully that's the best time. According to Rabbi Nachman of Breslov, the nighttime is the right time. You go out on top of the mountain, you look up at the sky and the stars, and you see the moon, and there's nothing out there except you and Hashem. There's nothing there. And you have to really get down to the idea that Hashem is waiting, He's listening, He wants to hear your expression of gratitude. And that's really the way to start. You start your personal prayer session with an expression of gratitude. Why? Because gratitude is really the truth. It's the truth. We owe everything to God. We owe everything. And by expressing gratitude, by saying, hey, listen, thank you for my family. Thank you for what I'm eating. Thank you for the shelter I have. Thank Him for your job and for the money that you have. Thank Him for your very health. When you really get down to it and you really start to thank Hashem for all the things that He's doing, and you start to see all of the things that He's doing for you, this is leading you to Emunah. Because once you get into that mood of gratitude, once you start to really start to think about it, and you're talking to Him like with a real connection about all the things that you're grateful for, then you start to feel the Emunah. You start to feel faith. He really is there, and He's doing everything for your best. And He's really trying to help us. And sometimes we make it hard for Him to help us, because we're going against Him and we're not talking to Him every day. But once you get into that feeling of Emunah, then you can get into the feeling of Simcha, and then from Simcha you can go to mental composure. The only way we can begin to speak to Hashem is when we have some feeling of gratitude. When we start on that, we have to clear the field and get down to the bottom line, which is that, that we owe everything to Him, that He's the Konei HaKol, and that we're Bal Chayvim. We're indebted to Him for everything. I had an experience this week with a young man that comes to see me. And initially he didn't want to speak to Hashem. He's coming to see a therapist, yet another therapist after a few tries with other ones. And here he's getting advice that's a little bit different than what he's used to. So one of the things I'm telling him is that he should speak to Hashem at least once a day for 10 minutes. And he finds this difficult to do. After all, he's a busy bach. He's in yeshiva. He's learning 3 Sidurim a day. He's got a lot, he doesn't have time for Hashem. I shouldn't say he doesn't have time for Hashem. He has time to learn Hashem's books, but he doesn't have time, sounds funny, but he doesn't have time to speak to Hashem. And he's skeptical. Is this something that's really going to help him? After all, he's coming for therapy. Why should he talk to Hashem? So he said that. He said, I've been in therapy for 2 years, and they give you a lot of techniques, and they tell you, all kinds of things to do. But you're just telling me to pray? Really, that's not what all I was telling him. I'm giving him other hashkafa, what we call hashkafa, different ways of thinking about Hashem, different ways of thinking about serving Hashem, the meaning of life, the purpose of life. But I asked him, I said, so all right, can you tell me in those 2 years what you learned from therapy? And he said, he was at a loss for words. I said, come on, give me a list. Let's make a list now of all the techniques that you've used and the ones that have helped you the most. He was really at a loss for words. He went home and he practiced 10 minutes a day, his bodhidus. Somehow he squeezed it into his schedule, and he thanked Hashem, and he tried to go over the last 24 hours each day, previous 24 hours, and say he's sorry to Hashem for the things that he did wrong. And he did some self-introspection, and he worked on that for 10 minutes. And he came back and he said, you know what? It was amazing. It worked so well. He said that when he was in the height of a few of his more severe tests, that he just stopped himself and was able to get rid of those urges, get rid of those negative emotions and urges, just by reaching out to Hashem and saying, Hashem, I need help. I can't do this alone. I know you're here. Please help me. And then he's a very intelligent person. He wanted to know, well, what is the shorish? What is the root of what enables a person to talk to Hashem? He asked me, how come on some days I can talk to Hashem and the words flow more easily, and then other days they don't? And what we really saw as we explored it is what Rabbi Irish teaches, and he mentions it, I believe, in Forest Fields, which is his book on Hisbodedus, on personal prayer, that the root of the ability to talk to Hashem is humility. It's humility. Really, as we said in the beginning of the lecture today, you have to start with gratitude. But really, humility comes even before gratitude. Because how can I express gratitude if I don't humble myself and admit that whatever I have or whatever I've achieved, it's come from Him. It didn't really come from me. So my friend says, well, but we do make effort, we do try, we do achieve things. Right? Even Moses, who the Torah says was the most humble man who ever lived, he can't say, well, I'm nothing, I didn't do anything. We all have to make effort, and that's true. A humble person also is making effort, but he doesn't take credit for the effort that he's making. He knows that really without Hashem, he wouldn't be able to lift his finger. He wouldn't be able to do anything. So he doesn't take credit. I thought it was so wonderful that this young man is looking for a definition of humility. He wants to understand what is true humility. What does it mean? It's so hard for us to really know what humility is unless we learn the holy books. We learn books on Emunah. Because today when we look around us, we see just the opposite of humility. What people revere are athletes who are, for example, who are full of arrogance. And of course it's not their fault. They grow up in a culture where, say, for example, an athlete is taught he has to be the best. He has to be the champion. He has to be number one. It's not good enough to come in second. You have to come in first. And if you don't, then you failed. You did something wrong. Right? So people are looking for greatness. They're looking for fame. They're looking to feel. But this is just the opposite of the Jewish approach. Jewish approach is to avoid, great tzaddikim, they avoid wanting people to see their achievements and their accomplishments. They sort of hide from that. And that gives more self-esteem than people that keep running and running after honor, and they find that the more they run after honor, the more they need it, and they sort of get addicted to it, and it never really fulfills. It never really gives you that feeling that you really, that you're looking for. So this was it was an interesting conversation we had yesterday. It's hard to be humble, and especially when you're in the midst of a lot of very trying circumstances. I talk to people from all walks of life, all over the world now, Baruch Hashem. And, sometimes a person is struck by very severe marital strife, And a person naturally, if he doesn't have faith yet, he's thinking, well, my situation is so much worse and so much more unfair than anyone else's. He might think, well, everybody has tests in marriage, but not like mine. Mine are the worst. I'm married to the woman I'm married to, she insults me, and she criticizes me, and she humiliates me, and she literally shechs me publicly in front of people. I cannot handle it. It's unfair, And so he exonerates himself from learning about the rules of peace in the home, the strategies, the rules, the tactics that we know based on the teachings of Rabbi Arish that work, that we've used here, that he's been privileged to use on tens of thousands of families and of couples all over Israel. No, the correct approach is to not ever question Hashem, but to say, look, I don't understand why I'm having all of these difficulties. I don't understand why I'm having all these tests. Hashem, help me to understand that these tests are coming for my good, that I need these challenges, that somehow if I can accept them and not fight you and not blame you, that I'll be able to look in and find the causes, the reasons why these things have to be fixed. And people that do that, people that learn the Garden of Peace, we learn with people on the phone, we learn with people on Skype, Garden of Peace, Garden of Women's Wisdom, Garden of Wisdom, Garden of Gratitude. We learn with people whatever it is that they may want to learn or what they need to learn for the particular situation they're in. When people do that, they get almost an immediate siyata d'shmaya, help from heaven. Somehow as a blessing, just to open up these books that are so holy and so simple, and yet so holy and so deep and effective. These books that have helped so many thousands and thousands of individuals and couples and families. Really quite amazing. So, I have somebody else who, he decided, look, he's, actually I have two young people now that are learning the Garden of Peace in preparation for marriage, right? In preparation for marriage. And it's so amazing to see a young person who comes from a very, very dysfunctional family, comes from a family where he never ever saw peace in the home one day in his life. Growing up in that house, he never ever saw his parents get along. Always fighting and bickering and yelling and screaming. How is he possibly going to be able to get married and be able to know how to treat his wife? Well, I'm absolutely sure he's going to be a great husband. I'm absolutely sure he's going to be a wonderful husband and a wonderful father. And this flies in the face of everything that we know about developmental psychology. Because he didn't grow up and develop in a situation where he had role models for that. But by learning the Garden of Peace twice a week, as we've done for so many months, he has internalized these ideas. He's prayed to God to be able to internalize the things that he's learning in the book and to put them into action. And he knows the pitfalls of breaking those rules. He knows them as a person would know to not put his hand on fire. He understands. Because he didn't just read a book, he learned a book. The difference between reading and learning is that when you learn something, you really internalize, you make it part of yourself, you make it part of your life. And that's what he's done. He makes it part of his life. He's a completely different person now. Not only is he going to be different in marriage, but he's different now already, even before he's getting married. All his relationships are different. He's become such a soft, gentle, easygoing, non-judgmental person. He's a person who's so sweet and uncritical, and only looks for the good in people and looks to compliment people. Where did he get that from? He got that from learning about marriage, but he put it into the rest of his life. He generalized it into other areas of his life so nicely, so beautifully, that he's become such a popular boy in the yeshiva. Everybody loves him. Everybody loves him. He came in and he was depressed and he was sullen and he was grim, and now he's a popular boy. Because by learning about Emunah, learning about truth, by learning about humility, by expressing gratitude to Hashem every day, which he does, he's become a happy person. And when you're a happy person, everybody wants to be your friend. Everybody gravitates to you when you're a happy person. I have the privilege of speaking to people who themselves don't have the privilege of learning in a yeshiva like this. And so they're very good at learning in general. Gemara, Chumash, Rashi, Tosfos, Shulchan Aruch. And yet, when it comes to making a real connection with Hashem, to being able to be happy, to know the parts of the Torah that a person really needs to know, to be able to turn challenges and difficulties into happiness and growth, they don't have that. So I get to talk to people, and I still don't quite understand why some of the leaders of the yeshivas don't incorporate these ideas into their yeshivas too. I'm sure that they have their reasons. But I was very, very satisfied to find out this week that a very big Rosh Yeshiva, a very, very chashuv person, who's a huge Talmud Chacham and the head of a huge yeshiva here in Jerusalem, he too really believes in all of the things that we're espousing here, that we're teaching. Not only does he send his boys here when they have challenges and they need some help, some guidance, some emunah, but now he's even supporting some of these assignments that we give people, which is, talk to Hashem, start with 10 minutes a day, go to 15, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, an hour if you can do it. This week he actually said to one of the boys, he said, you know what? Because the boy said, Dr. Ballen is telling me I should speak to God every day for 10 minutes. You think I should do that? He said, you know what? Not only should you do it, but you should try to get the most out of those 10 minutes that you can. And one day a week, you should do it for an hour. An hour? How can I do that? There's no time. He's learning all day long and all night, Baruch Hashem. So the Rosh Yeshiva said, well, do it on Friday, he said. Do it Friday, go down to the Kosel, go down to the wall. There aren't too many people there then. And speak to Hashem and pour your heart out to Him. By the Makam Hashkina, by the place where Hashem's presence is most manifest in this world. Do it for a whole hour. Wow. The boy came back to me. He was so excited that he got confirmation from his Rosh Yeshiva, from such a great Talmud Chacham, that he should do this because he knew how much it was making him feel good. He knows how much better he feels already having a relationship with Hashem. It feels so good to look forward to that conversation that we're going to have with Hashem every day, especially those of us that have a special time where we go to speak with Him. The best time, of course, being night, the best place, being outdoors in some natural environment. And there, says Rabbi Nachman of Breslov, even the plants and the trees, the animals, all of the things, all of creation joins together with you in your prayers to the Creator. It's the sweetest, sweetest time. It's the sweetest hour. So what happens? Sometimes people go to do Hisbodedus and they find that they still aren't yet getting the things that they want. Somebody told me recently that she's been doing Hisbodedus dutifully for years. It's been years since she and I had in contact. But she wrote me in an email, she said, I just want you to know I'm keeping up with my Hisbodedus all these years. She gets up every morning, dutifully, very early. She puts in time for Hisbodedus. She says, but things really haven't changed that much. And I think I know the reason why. I thought about it in my own Hisbodedus, and I think I know the reason why, and it's because in order to be able to do Hisbodedus, in order to be able to have an effective Hisbodedus, shall we say, to be able to make a true connection to Hashem, a true, honest, humble connection with Hashem. A connection where you're not tiring from Hashem and making complaints about Hashem and doing the improper things that sort of put a ceiling, over your prayers and keep them from going up. A person has to have a modicum of mental health. A person has to be able, as we said before, to have a modicum of humility and gratitude. A person has to be able to have some degree of acceptance that the way that Hashem is running his life or her life is really up to Hashem, and that we can't have questions on Hashem, and that we have to find ways, with Hashem's help, of course, to be samech b'chelka, to be able to accept what we are, what we have, our lot in life. But if a person comes with all the negative emotions and regrets, and tainas and resentments towards Hashem, chas v'shalom, if a person is depressed, they can't pray. A person really can't pray properly if they're depressed. That's only one reason why Rabbi Arish suggests that we begin with gratitude, because gratitude gets us into the proper state of mind. But if a person is severely depressed or very, very angry or caught in some kind of emotional bind, they really can't properly do personal prayer. The person needs guidance. The person needs somebody that they can talk to that's going to help them to be able to get unblocked, to be able to break out from those negative emotions and have a workable guide, a workable structure for how to approach prayer. It doesn't take all that much to be able to free oneself from the binds that keep us back from being able to have an honest and true relationship with God, but it does require some work. And it requires having a spiritual guide. It requires having someone who knows the terrain, both from a psychological and from a spiritual point of view, and help you navigate your way to have your unique personal bond with Hashem, which is really something that you must get to. You must get to in this life. Anyone that doesn't get to it, it's such a shame. Such a shame to miss out on that. Because that's really the whole tachlis, that's really the whole purpose. To have that, to know Hashem, to be close to Hashem, which gives you that feeling of not only being a happy person, but being a person who's living in paradise. A person who has no worries, a person who can't become angry, a person who is able to turn all kinds of situations around and see the good in all kinds of situations and in all kinds of people. A person who's immune from being able, from falling into jealousy or comparing yourself to other people. Wouldn't you like to be past all of these things? Where you don't have any jealousy, there's no comparisons, you're not coveting anybody. Wouldn't you like to feel that you don't really need much at all to be happy, but that you have everything that you have, everything that you presently have is basically all that you need to really be a happy person, a grateful person? Wouldn't you like to be able to close your eyes at night and just sleep the innocent sleep of a young child who has no worries, has no darkness? Well, this is within the reach of every person. And Rabbi Arish Shlita says that a person doesn't have to be a tzaddik to thank Hashem for your problems. To thank Hashem for our problems means that we recognize that our problems are good for us. We recognize, although the problems hurt, they cause pain, that we recognize that problems are good for us because everything that comes from Hashem is good. And if we have tests, we have problems, we have to work on, it forces us to grow. It forces us to improve ourselves. It forces us to be able to look past ourselves. Sometimes it means we have to do more for others. Becomes less self-centered. Pray more for other people. Sometimes we have to go back and we have to find that sin or whatever it is that we did that was wrong that we need to correct. And when we do that, boom, we do tshuva, everything goes away, the problems disappear. Many, many examples of that. If you look at Rabbi Arish's book on miracles, he has a whole bunch of stories, hundreds of stories, of miracles that he either personally experienced himself or people came to him and told him about. Miracles that came about as a result of emunah and thanking Hashem. Not just thanking Hashem for the obvious good, but thanking Hashem for the things that we can't understand. A young lady is told by her parents that unfortunately the school that she's been attending do not wish to take her back the next year. She needs to find a new place, a new school. Of course, this is very shocking and disturbing to both the parents and to the young lady. She's been at the school for a number of years, 7 or 8 years. She basically grew up there. And now, for some reason, which from what I hear is not a reason to let a girl out from the school, But with emunah, we look at this, we try to not put any blame on the school, on the principal, on the teachers. It would be easy to blame them and say, listen, you're not giving this girl a chance. She's really workable. Why don't you get to know her a little bit? Instead of just punishing and yelling, get to know her, try to find out more about her, try to see what's going on in her life, see if you can help her a little bit. Maybe school's more than just giving tests and giving lectures, and telling girls how to dress. Although it's important to tell girls how to dress. There are halachas of tznius and so on and so forth, but there's more to educating girls than just that. No, but instead of blaming, the parents say, you know what, this is from God. Must be that Hashem wants her to leave and go to a better place for her. It's not good for her for some reason to be in that school. We have no idea why, but it's going to be better for her to go somewhere else. And so it gives them the energy and the strength to begin to now search and look for an alternative, to be able to decipher the message and see what it is that Hashem wants. And with emunah, a person is hopeful. They don't have anger towards anybody. And they're hopeful and they're encouraged that the right thing will materialize at the right time. There's no need for anxiety. There's no need for worries. Very, very important. Very, very important to maintain that. But without that emunah training, people fly into all kinds of negative emotions. And then they get in arguments with the school, and they make it harder for the child. And then they blame the child. How come you didn't do this? And how come they said this about you, and they said this about you? Where is that going to lead? She'll just deny it. You see, we can skirt all around that. Sometimes we need to take a more challenging approach. We have to face people with denial. People who are denying heavily, and that's blocking them from being able to make progress and grow. We need to challenge the denial. What is the denial? The denial might be that my person may say, I'm not an aggressive person, I'm not an angry person. But everybody in that person's environment is telling him, hey, calm down, cool off, you're a little hot under the collar. His rabbi tells him, maybe you should work on your anger. His study partner tells him, hey, wait a minute, you don't be so argumentative. I'm actually agreeing with you. His therapist tells him the same thing, and he can't quite understand. So I'm not angry, I'm not, it's the last thing I am. He's saying it with his veins popping out of his neck. All of a sudden, he starts to realize, somebody points out to him, you know what, you say you're not angry, but your eyeballs are popping out of your head right now. He stops and he thinks. Hashem opens the heavens and gives him some help, and he said, really? Wow, I guess maybe I am a little angry. My voice is loud. The volume is up, And then he thinks, wow, that's just the way people talk in my family, but I guess it comes across as angry to other people. Okay, I can work on that. In his family, people are loud and they're angry and they express it, and that's what he's getting. But it's not the norm. It's not the norm for most people. So now he wants to fit in with other people. He wants to be accepted by other people. He needs Hashem's help to work on himself to be able to observe himself, to listen to himself. How am I coming across? And he needs to observe other people and get feedback from their faces and their reactions, rather than just pushing like a bull in a china shop through everything. Because that's all he knew. That's all he knows. That's the way it was always done in his house. Baruch Hashem, he's able to learn that. But we have so much to do. We have so much work to do. We have so much work to do. A friend of mine is working very hard to make indents into the educational system. Because, as we said before, the educational system is not really set up to be able to educate children in completely. We're teaching them ideas, we're teaching them from the books, we're teaching them skills and how to read and how to learn and how to memorize and so on, how to pray. They're getting skills. But what about education in how to be a good person? What about education in how to process your emotions? How to face honestly your own difficulties, to be able to face honestly the parts of you that need work, or the things that are bothering you, that you need to get over, that you need to work it out, to talk to Hashem about it, to talk to somebody else about it. Kids need to know. And older kids too, adolescents, need to know. An education about themselves, about how to be a good person, about how to have a connection that's real with other people and with God. So, these are the things that we try to teach here. Baruch Hashem, we have a wonderful staff of people here. Everybody, working together, from Rabbi Arish, Rabbi Brody, myself, Rebbetzin Chanan, who is our one of our Amunah coaches. People love speaking to her. All the way to the to the phone staff, Rabbi Dubinsky. Everyone here is so respectful, so professional, and everybody using Amunah to be able to help people in any way they need it, to hook them up with whatever services you need, whether it's Amunah coaching, whether it's halachic issues that you need help with, to speak to a rabbi, you have financial issues that you need help with, you have issues of child rearing that you need help with. Whatever it is, marital issues, one-stop shopping. Let me give you a phone number where you can consult with Rabbi Dubinsky. He's very generous with his time and very informed and very knowledgeable about everything that we're doing here at the yeshiva. You can reach Rabbi Aaron Dubinsky at area code 718-577-2975. Area code 718-577-2975. That's a toll-free number, by the way. It rings here in Israel, 718-577-2975. Just want to make sure you got it right. And Israel hours from 3 to 11 o'clock at night, right? They stay in that office till 11 p.m. just so people in America, Canada, the other side of the world, you can call us and contact us when it's convenient for you. So, let's leave it here. Mitzvah Hashem, we'll talk again next week. We should all be zeicha to have what we need. Anyone who needs parnosa, who needs livelihood, should have it. Anyone who needs shalom bayis, peace in the home, Hashem should bless you with that. Anybody who needs consolation from anything, Hashem should bless you and should bring you all the yeshuas and all the brachas and all the refuahs that we need, us, all of Israel, all the world. We should soon merit to see the coming of Mashiach Tzidkenu B'mher Yameinu. Amen.